There we go. All right, guys. Hello, hello, and happy Thursday. In this live training, Coach Tobi and I are going to be reviewing my blood work. If you're not familiar with who Coach Tobi is and what he does at Thriving On, Coach Tobi is one of our functional nutritionists, as well as a coach. And so basically, his job not only is to coach people, but also to review blood work through blood panel analysis. This is something that we do with our own clients. We also provide it as a one-off thing if you want somebody to come in and look at your blood work and tell you what it actually means and what are some of the things that you can do through nutrition, fitness, and lifestyle to help improve your situation and or really optimize your results in getting your reaching your goals. And a few like a quick snapshot as to like how is it different than, like, let's say going to a doctor than going through us. And we're not saying that we're replacing doctors. We're not here to prescribe you, to diagnose you, anything. We stay within our scope of knowledge. But typically when you go to your doctor, their scope of knowledge are the like ranges within a certain range. If not, then here is a protocol through like medications or things like that, where a lot of people are looking for more of a preventative approach. A lot of the health concerns that we have, a lot of the hormonal issues that we have can be either alleviated or solved through lifestyle, nutrition, and fitness interventions. And so that's what Tobi does, because a lot of times when you go to the doctor, they don't even explain what things mean by any means. Right. And another big thing is that we look at functional levels versus conventional levels. Tobi, do you mind briefly going into what's the difference between like conventional levels, what you'd get from like conventional, like a PCP or an endocrinologist, and through functional means?
So most people who feel like something is wrong, right? They feel unwell. That's why we seek out medical help. When we now go get our blood check, we will come out normal on a blood test, right? And clinical experience, not just mine, but others too, which is, we can use research for, usually suggests that these people by no means are normal and are really a far cry away from being functionally optimal.
Yeah, that was my story. That was mine. I remember for years feeling so off. So for those that aren't familiar with my own journey through healing my hormones, I was at a point where like my hair was falling out. I was always cold. I was always super emotional, like mood swings, anxiety, depression. I was just like a shell of a person. Like I was miserable to be around. Like, I'm currently divorced, and my ex even mentioned that during that time he was like, I loved it when you left me because it was just not fun being around you. And I felt like I was going crazy. And when I went to the doctor, they're like, yeah, you're normal. Like, it's fine. And I even had one like tell me that it might be in my head. I might need to go get a therapist. I'm like, my hair is literally falling out in clumps. Like, and I have thick hair. And even my hairdresser, who used to complain about how long it took to do my hair, she's like, Casey, this is really thin. And that's a huge like key indicator that you do have hormonal issues potentially, is if your hair is starting to fall out, moodiness, depression, anxiety, all these different things. There's so many different ways to show that. But again, I didn't feel like I was being heard. And it wasn't until I had somebody look at functional levels and they're like, oh, no, you're not okay. Like I was diagnosed with hypothyroidism. And we'll talk about it a little bit more, but when I first started, I had low testosterone, low progesterone, and a lot of different imbalances, and a lot of the markers that showed that my body just was not healthy at all. And it was missed when I went to conventional medicine, unfortunately.
Yeah. Now, the biggest thing that I think we need to add to this is that even when we are consulting functional practitioners, right? So it's like something that I put together, like a functional health report.
Yeah.
By no means should any of this replace medical treatment,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's like it's not meant or intended for diagnosing people, preventing things from happening. Like we can try our best, and then based on some of these numbers, we can get a pretty good idea of what we have to do to push those things off as long as possible. But by no means should any of the information that we are talking and discussing today um, replace seeing a physician if things, well, if you need one,
Yeah.
right? It's not a diagnosis, it's just meant to show, right? This is where you're standing, and this is how far away you are from where you could be,
Mm-hmm.
right? So we need that awareness piece. So we're tracking it where you're at right now, because everybody wants a plan when they start, right? I have this vision in mind and I want a plan to get me there,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's just like when you are starting to track your food to create awareness around how much food are you currently eating,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's essentially the exact same thing,
Yep.
right? Let's create awareness of where you are currently at physiologically. Then from there, that will give us answers into what are some of the things that we can do to get you more optimal. And sometimes that actually means being referred to a specialist,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
right?
And I also work with a functional practitioner.
Mhm.
She like I full disclosure, guys, I do take HRT. I take NP thyroid, which is helps with optimizing my thyroid. And then I also do take progesterone because my progesterone was almost non-existent. I couldn't sleep, really bad periods, all these different things. So I collaborate with Toby and my practitioner together. So I love that you brought that up 100%. We're not here to replace and by no means, I also want to say this is like by no means are we trying to like bad talk conventional
No,
medicine. Like there's like we have a lot of clients that have fantastic doctors
absolutely.
and we're like, keep them, like keep them. They're awesome. But then we also have some that like either their hands are tied because this is more of a systematic issue than anything. Like I don't think any doctors or anything like that are malicious by any means.
Mhm.
I think it's just like it's their hands are tied. They have limited time, they're overworked. There's only so much that the system will allow them to do. And so if anything, we're here to help bridge that gap and collaborate with them as much as possible. That's it. Like we're just trying to
Mm.
help out in any way that we can within our scope of knowledge. So, but I'm really excited to hear what the blood work has to say. I already know. I'm a little nervous. Um, but let's dive right on it in.
Yes. So to make this the easiest or the most comprehensive to show kind of people what we're doing, do you mind making me the host so that I can show
Already
it?
on it. Already on it.
Beautiful. Let's hope I share the right thing.
Yeah.
Beautiful. So there's a few things that when we do these um, practitioners, when we reports, when we put these together, right? So the first thing we have to look at is just some analytics, right? We want to look at things that are out of the optimal range. And the easiest way to do that is by providing a full breakdown of all the individual markers that have been tested. Now, the cool thing is that we can see that Casey already did some of these,
Mhm.
right? And her current one, which is in the top, is better than the one below, right?
Yay.
We have less high markers, we have more optimal markers, which means that the things that she's been working on are moving into the right direction, but by no means can we see that they're perfect.
Yeah.
Right? So now when we put them together, there's a few things that have changed, some for the better, some for the worse, right? And some of these things are, right, the A1C, the hemoglobin A1C, these are both blood sugar markers.
Mhm.
The glucose, the fasting glucose levels, I mean, are they elevated? Yes. But this is just a snapshot in time, whereas the hemoglobin A1C is a calculation over multiple times,
Mhm.
right? So we can see it's still green, which means it's in the optimal level, but it's elevated, which means it's moving towards the higher end,
Mhm.
right? So, Casey, quick question. When you had your blood drawn, I know that it said it was fasted, but did you work out or did you take supplementation?
I don't believe I took supplementation, but I didn't work out that day, but I did work out the morning before.
Okay, so when we work out, what happens is your body will enter a sympathetic state,
Mhm.
right? Like the sympathetic nervous system is that fight or flight thing. And what your body will try to do is your body will try to provide the brain and the muscle with carbohydrates. So whenever we are in a stressed state, because working out is a stressor, that doesn't mean it's a bad one,
Mhm.
our blood sugar rises, right? Which is why when we haven't had any food and we work out very rigorously on an empty stomach, we sometimes feel super dizzy, right? Some people even pass out. And those are low blood sugar things. And it's because the body will try to raise these, but doesn't have enough fuel to do that,
Mhm.
right? So when this raises, it sometimes can be an indication of that people have worked out,
Yeah.
right? But what is this glucose, right? So blood glucose is regulated by a whole bunch of important hormones. So whenever we see a change there, we can also look at further down the road at some hormones. It's never a one size fits all solution. We can't just look at one marker and assume that this one marker will tell us the whole story. We need to look at a trend, and this will be a little bit more apparent as we're getting into this.
No.
But since this is not like all too elevated, and I know that Casey is practicing a whole lot of healthy habits, um, we can hypothesize that this is due to acute stress, right? So, Casey, during that time when you had this done, were you stressed?
Oh, I was so stressed out. During this time, this was like during and the tail end of moving 4 times within 2 months, traveling a lot. And also this was when we started like making this huge transition with Thriving On, and we were working a ton in the background, and I didn't get a lot of time to work out or sleep as well as I normally do. It was one of those acute moments where it was just a grind. So yeah,
Absolutely,
100% I was stressed.
right? And increasing levels of stress cause the body to move further into the direction of a stress response, right? The body
Yeah.
recognizes stress and will respond accordingly. And we all know that cortisol is our stress hormone. So we're stressed, cortisol rises, and excess cortisol will reduce the body's utilization and uptake of glucose by the cell,
Mhm.
right? So that's why, right? Casey was super stressed. So when this is going to be something that we want to watch, right?
Yeah.
It's nothing where I would lose my mind over just because we know that a lot of the lifestyle things that were going on during that time explain this rise of blood sugar. By no
Yeah.
means is this like a super unhealthy thing.
And Toby, can you explain why blood sugar even matters? Like, why should people even care about blood sugar, especially when it comes to like my goals of like for you guys to know, like my main goals are one, to keep improving my hormonal health. I
Absolutely.
also just started with Coach Ellen here, and we're going to be like in through our process of coaching, we have to build a solid foundation before going into a dieting process. So I'm building a solid foundation. Some big things as well with her is like, I was like, I need to get better at managing my stress, because when I don't manage my stress, I'm less productive. I'm not as good to the people around me. I'm more moody, and I don't like feeling that way. I've spent majority of my life really feeling that way. And as a business owner, it's really hard to figure out that balance. And I want her to hold me accountable and call me out on my bullshit when I put myself on the back burner. And want to make sure that I'm finding that balance between like really putting in work, doing the things that I love, but also making sure I take care of myself. So can you explain why blood sugar even matters when it comes to my goals?
For sure. So one of the biggest things that we see when blood sugar is elevated for a long period of time is that the body will go into something that's called insulin resistance or glucose intolerance,
Mm-hmm.
right? So during a normal glucose tolerance, um, the body responds exactly the way we want. And this is not just in terms of blood sugar uptake, but everywhere downstream as well, right? Cortisol, like our stress, which impacts blood sugar,
Mm-hmm.
will also then in combination impact things like DHEA, something that Casey was talking about a little bit earlier,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's something that helps the adrenals. It's a precursor to sex hormones,
Yeah.
right? And if now our body has an imbalance there with the things that are precursors to sex hormones, we are far more likely to have hormonal imbalance,
Yeah.
right?
That's
This
why
over, go ahead.
I was about to say that's why, like, whenever we have somebody coming with us and they're like, hey, like we figure out that they potentially do have blood sugar or like hormonal imbalances, or they have officially been diagnosed. That's like one of the first things that we dive into. Or one of the big
Sure.
rocks that we dive into is regulating blood sugar, because it's so important for hormonal health, but also what you're talking about is like stress management. And like for me, it's a big thing for my mental health, because when I have poor blood sugar, when I'm stressed to the max, like my mental health declines significantly. Like I get burned out more, again, moody, all these different things. And so 100% like blood sugar is a big thing that I want to really work on. It's going to
For
give me a
sure,
huge big bang for my buck. So
right? So beyond that, it affects the liver. Um, the liver is where most of our cholesterol, triglycerides, LDL, HDL, those kind of factors are being processed,
hmm
right? We know that dietary cholesterol, again, is the backbone to hormones,
hmm
and high blood glucose levels, right? High blood sugar has been associated with an increased levels of blood fats, um, more of the bad cholesterol, less of the good cholesterol, which over time will lead to fat deposits in the liver,
mm
which also doesn't help when we're trying to regulate hormones,
yeah,
right? But let's not get stuck up just on blood pressure. Ugh, blood pressure, blood sugar,
yeah,
right? From there, I mean, you can see that these are grouped, right? Blood glucose, these are our glucose levels. From there, we're going into some kidneys. Again, this is super stress related, more than likely, right? So I already have my answer. These are all individual markers. Creatinine has something to do with muscle breakdown. So if we're super stressed, the body will try to raise the blood sugar.
hmm
And if we don't get it from food, we will get it from where most of our carbohydrates in the body are stored, which is within the muscle cell, right? So the body will try to naturally raise our blood sugar. And if we don't get that from foods, our body will resort to breaking down muscle cells,
That's why
right?
stress people tend to lose muscle mass and gain fat
Yes,
mass.
right. So
Yeah.
this then shows us, hey, your muscle breakdown has been higher than normal, right? But Casey already said she didn't really work out during that time. Did you change the style of workout that you did? Like, did you work out more intensely during that time?
No, if anything, I like reduce the frequency and the time in the gym because I like, and I know like just from past experience, when I'm really stressed out, I actually need to start working out less because it makes me more stressed out, obviously, that like we're talking about. And so I altered it to 3 to 4 times a week.
Okay.
I switched to like full body workout so that way if I had to take a day off, like a day off on that week, or if I was busy, I wouldn't like just be working out legs or just arms and skip leg day all the time.
Right.
And I was in the gym for about like 45 minutes lifting, and then I would spend extra time just walking. That was it if
Hmm.
I was going to be in the gym longer. So
Right. So knowing that means that her overall muscle breakdown should be less, right? Which shows the overall effect that stress can have on our body,
mm,
right? So this is one of the first things that we have to. I know it's difficult to down regulate stress, especially when we feel like there's absolutely nobody else in our life that can do what we do,
mhm.
right? Talking to all the moms out there,
Yep.
but we have to find a way to delegate,
Yeah.
right? It's this important,
Hmm.
right? From there, the cool thing is when we're looking at overall electrolyte or mineral balance, most things have improved, right? Green thumb, Casey.
I've been working so hard on being more hydrated. Like I like Calvin and I now get LMNT, which is fantastic electrolytes. I start my day off with that now. Like that's the one thing I'm super proud of is that I used to suck at drinking water and I'm getting so much better at it too. So very happy with that.
Mhm. Right? So from there, let's look at proteins. There's multiple proteins in the blood that we can test,
Mhm.
and our overall protein levels in the blood have gone down. Again, this can mean multiple things. Casey, how's your digestive health?
As I get stressed, it doesn't go well. Um,
Right.
Going to the bathroom is not the problem. Pretty regular on it. It's guys, we talk about poop all the time. It's in and out, super easy. Never really have a problem with that. I don't have problems with constipation or anything like that. But uh I've noticed that I do deal with a lot of bloating. I know like beginning of last year after my separation, I was really, really stressed and depressed. And so I would see myself bloating at the end of the day and almost looking pregnant. And it slowly started coming back and back and back. And that's one of the big indicators. Like I know that if I'm massively stressed, I'll start bloating a lot. So definitely feeling
Which makes a
bloating.
lot of sense, right? So bloating is usually the result of a fermentation process in the stomach, right? There are certain things in our stomach that can't digest properly. Think of what happens to your orange juice if it sits in the fridge for too long,
Yeah.
right? The bottle gets super bloated and very dense. The same thing happens in our stomach too, right? And one of the things that we see when overall protein levels are down is that the body has a really hard time breaking down the food that we get into its compounds. So the body can't break down the food into carbs, proteins, and fats, and it stays as a whole, right? So if your body can't break it down, your body won't be able to absorb it. So the reason why I asked about digestion is because lower protein levels are usually a sign of less available stomach acid, which is what slows down the digestion, right? The next is that I already talked a little bit about the liver when we talked about blood sugar and stress.
Hmm.
And when we foreshadow a little bit, right, our liver, like her liver numbers got a little bit worse. Um, right? But what we can now usually experience with this, especially with some of that like liver not functioning as well as we would, is this weird pain between our shoulder blades, right? We get upper back tension. And then we're like, oh, I worked out. I'm just so tight from the stress. I have to go more to the chiropractor. And it's like, no, cracking your back is not the solution, right? Our stomach gets upset very easily by greasy foods. right? Casey, are you a
Steps.
lightweight when it comes,
With drinking, oh, 100%.
right? If drinking alcohol, we're very easily intoxicated because
Mm,
the liver is where the detoxification process happens. And if the liver is already under attack, it doesn't work so well. We get frequent headaches right over the eye, right? And a lot of people are like, these are just tension headaches from being stressed. And it's like, no.
Okay, I found this on the web. For drinking alcohol, we are very easily
Oh, can you hear that?
yeah, can I hate it when is
I
that
don't know.
Google?
I don't know how to turn that off.
Headaches right over the eye.
Tell it to stop.
Siri, stop.
There
That
you
was
go.
weird.
My watch does that sometimes too. I'm like, shut up, Siri.
Right. From there, we can be very sensitive to certain chemicals, like walking through the perfume aisle can set off a few kind of things. We get headaches. Having some cleaning products or um, smelling gasoline, those kind of fumes, they sometimes set us off very easily where we get headaches. Those are all symptoms of things not going well in the liver because the body can't do the detoxification process that
Mm,
it wants. Right
sounds
now, another
familiar.
thing here is an amino acid need. There's a few amino acids we'll get into a little bit um, later in this
Yeah.
where like gut health, the body will need a little bit more glutamine, right? So supplementing with amino acids actually might help not just the liver and your stomach, but also your overall protein levels,
Okay,
right? It's
cool.
not often that I say that amino acids usually I say are a waste of money when we're talking from a healthy system. But if we see that something isn't optimally healthy, they can help, right? From there, very, very beautiful lipids, overall cholesterol panel is looking much better, right?
Yay!
Triglycerides, which is the body's fat storage for in between meals, right? I mean, when we're looking significantly more green, more cholesterol, which Casey was trying to work on in terms of hormonal health. So some of these numbers are looking really, really beautiful.
Good.
From there, thyroid. Casey already mentioned she has hypothyroidism. Hypo means it doesn't work as well as we want it. Hyper with the ER means it's too much, right? So TSH stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. If the body feels like that the thyroid needs to be stimulated more for it to kick in a little bit more, the body will make more of this stimulating hormone, right? Now, Casey, do you have medication for your thyroid levels?
I do. I take NP thyroid.
When you took this, or when we did the blood work, around the time, like few weeks to months beforehand, were you either out of your medication? Were you not as regimented as you should have been when it comes to taking them?
I was out. That was when I was transitioning to a new functional practitioner. And that took a little bit longer for me to get that in and get everything transferred over and find where I can get my medication and everything like that too. So there was like about a month where I did not get any thyroid medication. And trust me, I was feeling it. It was
Mhm.
not fun. I was like getting cold all the time. I was cranky. I had very little motivation. I think that was also probably one of the reasons why I was really stressed out is because like I had zero motivation to do anything. And then I felt like I was like being lazy, just all the pressures. Like I feel it a ton when I don't take my NP. So,
Yeah, right. So again, nothing to be like all super concerned because it's not random. That's why we
yeah.
ask these questions that we do so that we get a snapshot insight into
Yeah.
lifestyle, right? This is probably explained by, well, you being out of your thyroid medication,
Yep.
right? But again, nothing that we want to brush off just because we know you have that history. So we want to make sure that we are keeping an eye on this,
Yeah. We'll keep
right?
an eye on this for the next one because I am now taking it regularly. So,
Right. From there, inflammation with you being super stressed, inflammation was probably going to be higher. With the stress, we talked about hormonal balance, right? So it's not a surprise at all that some of those hormonal levels went down, right? We
That
talked
makes me
about,
so sad because I remember the last time I got my blood work done and
that
the
was so
doctor,
great,
I was like, I'm finally optimal with my testosterone, and now it's lower. Okay, we're just
right?
gonna have to get that back up. That's okay
Yes.
though.
So during that time, what we then just notice is we have, well, we already talked about muscle breakdown, right? So decreased lean body mass, decreased sex drive, those things. And it's not like a huge red flag, especially because those levels they're just below optimal. They're not like dangerously low yet, where I would be like, hey, you
But I
probably
want
want to
optimal.
consult an endocrinologist.
We need optimal. It's a competition. I need to see the greens.
Right. I say that all the time. It's not a competition, but it is.
Yeah.
From there, the cool thing is when we're looking at overall health, and by health, I mean this in the very common way, right? Like white blood cells, right? Like your immune system seems to be in less of a distress, right? When we're looking at overall, like our complete blood count, like all of these numbers have improved, right? We're now in the optimal range, which is great, or at least we're getting closer, right? Now, what I only want to point out is the reason why these get a thumbs down is because these are overall percentage. So our total white blood cell count got less, or Casey's total blood cell count got less, which means that some of the other white blood cells that make up the total count have to also come down.
Yeah.
Right. So this is just a percentage level. The percentages aren't optimal anymore, but the overall amount of blood cells or white blood cells are.
Nice.
So what does that mean? Well, it means the Casey's immune system is working the way we want it to, which is great, right? Because
It never gets sick.
people that are stressed can get sick very often. So we know she was very stressed, yet her immune system wasn't under attack, which means that she is able to handle stress somewhat okay.
Yeah.
Right? And that is a result of having put in the work and doing the right things to get yourself stress resilient for a while. This doesn't just happen overnight.
Yeah. I'm working my booty off. Makes me happy.
Right? From there, I like to put this in. It's just a scorecard of when we're seeing the higher things rank to the top of the list. Percentage-wise, the higher they are away or the further above the optimal level they are, right? So that we can really dive in and focus into some of these things. And
like
then
triage it.
Correct. The same goes for the bottom, right? The lower they rank, the further below the optimal level they are.
Okay.
Right? Now, from there, this is just something that I put in there for you, and I'm going to send this to you, just a little bit of an explanation. What do some of these things mean, right? It's all of the biomarkers that we dove into. We feel like this is one thing where when we're going to the doctor's office, it falls short, is they just don't have the time to sit down and have this 1 hour long conversation that we're having right now. And even if we're having this 1 hour long conversation, what is the chances that you're going to remember everything that I'm telling you? So we're putting a little explanation under what each one of these markers is. What does it mean, right?
And that's another reason why we record these videos and send it to our clients, because then they can go back to it. If they're like, oh, that totally made sense, but I forgot it. They can go back to the recording, or if they want to share it with their practitioner or something like that, they're more than welcome to. So
again, like this is purely the more education you have about what's going on, what some of these things mean, the better. So we're putting that in there. Now, where it gets interesting is when we're looking at overall functional body systems and we're assessing them. Right? And the way that I rank them is if they're above, like they're either possible that there's a dysfunction, they're likely, or they're highly likely.
Mhm.
But with you, we knew this already, right? So this
Yeah.
is absolutely no surprise.
Mhm.
From there, gut health based on the stress, also not really a surprise.
Yeah.
Um,
100%.
Again, we can look at symptoms there, right? Just to see if it's actually true, like that we're spot on. I don't think we have to dive into, like, at least with you, into the thyroid, because we knew that you're having a thyroid dysfunction. We
Yeah.
know just from our conversation, um, right?
We can briefly brush over because I know that there's a lot of people struggling with like
For
thyroid
sure.
issues, whether
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
like
Absolutely.
things like
Right.
me or like an autoimmune disorder as well. We can ask.
So we're going to just talk about some of them.
Okay.
Um, with
Otherwise, we'd be here
our
forever.
Right. So some of the things that we see with thyroid dysfunctions are things like brittle nails, constipation, more depressive symptoms,
Mhm.
headaches,
Mhm.
menstrual irregularities,
Mhm.
poor circulation. You already mentioned that you're always cold.
I was always cold. When I
Um,
take when I take my thyroid medication, now I'm like, why am I hot all the time? And
I know.
Calvin's like, it's because it's hot. Like you're actually feeling the hot now. I'm like, oh, okay.
Yes. Loss of hair.
Yep.
Um, and this it's not just on the head. It's like eyelashes,
Mhm.
all kinds of stuff,
Yeah.
right?
And
We
then when you
get
have And then when you do have hypothyroidism, so that does slow down your metabolism. So when you have somebody who has hypothyroidism, or underactive thyroid, your calorie intake may have to be less just because you're burning less calories with this. So, thankfully, ever since we really started working on this, I've been slowly eating more and more because my thyroid is working better. So, like, I think before I was between 2,200 to 2,300, and now I'm like 2,300 to 2,500 within that range that I can eat without gaining weight. So,
beautiful. When we're looking at the GI function, right, like gastrointestinal function, it's bloating that settles in rather quickly, usually within 1 hour after eating a meal.
yep.
Relatively simple stomach upsetness,
Hmm.
fingernail chips, they
Yep.
peel or break easily.
Yep.
Um, we get full very, very easily, things like that,
Hmm.
right? Now, what we also do, or what I also do, is I put a rationale in as to why.
Hmm.
Because these markers were the way they were, right? Arrow up means they're high. Arrow down means that they were low or below optimal. Some of these things may be possible, right? We can't really say what, just based on looking at these, if it's hyperactive thyroid, underactive thyroid, um, our anterior pituitary, something in the brain that actually it's a gland in the brain that's responsible for making these hormones, right? But we know with Casey, it's hypothyroid,
Because I
right?
was diagnosed by a practitioner.
Correct, right? So if we wouldn't have known, I would have told her, it's like, hey, you probably want to get this checked by a specialist,
Yep.
right? But we already have that. From there, GI function, right? Because of these markers, things to consider afterwards. Same thing here. Biomarkers that are not available in this test, but we want to consider running in the future, right? We can then tell our doctor, hey, I want to know more about these.
Hmm.
Right? As we're getting, we already talked a little bit about liver and kidneys, um, simply through stress, right? Now, the biggest thing that's going to help you in terms of increasing your liver scores is going to be vitamin absorption. Okay,
Okay.
so with the stomach being the way it is, like that digestion being slower, your uptake not being optimal, it is no surprise that some of those numbers show the way they are, simply because if your body can't digest it, your body can't absorb it, And whenever your mama told you you are what you eat, she lied to you because you are what you absorb, right? It doesn't matter if you can't absorb it, all the good foods, supplements, and everything that you take, if they don't make it into your system, what good are they, right? So we need to make sure, and this is one of these things when we're looking at improving hormonal health, that we also want to improve gut health to make sure that some of these things are being absorbed so that the body can make use of them.
Yep.
Right? So let's move on to accessory systems. pH balance. What the heck does that mean? Right? So stomach acid is very acidic, hence the name acid. Right? And if we're having less of it, we can assume that our body is less acidic, right? And the opposite of acidic is alkaline. So Casey is too alkaline, right? So what we want to do is we probably want to incorporate some foods that will make her more acidic, right? Again, we can do this supplementally. We can supplement with HCl, which is stomach acid, but we can also do this through food, right? And some of the top acidic or acid-forming foods are egg yolk. So if you're one of these people that's afraid of eating the yolk because there's a lot of fat in it, don't be.
Eat the yolk.
Eat the yolk. That's where all the nutrients are.
Yep.
Right?
It's probably one of the most nutrient-dense foods
100%.
you can get. It's
right?
so good for you.
So before we get into a food list, right, I should probably preface this. What we want to, Casey, and this might be a change to what you are doing right now, and this is probably something that you want to communicate with your coach, is we want to stay away from excess carbohydrates. And this is all kinds of things, right? We want to make sure that we are staying away from like too many, well, carbs. As it relates to some of the others. We don't want to be deficient in fat with respect to carbs, and we don't want to be deficient in protein with respect to carbs either. Right? This doesn't always go in line with us wanting to be like athletes and perform really, really well in the gym because, you know, PRing makes us feel good, and deadlifting some heavy weight and then dropping it and making the whole floor shake makes us feel badass. But we can't do that if we can't be healthy.
Yeah, that's a big reason. So for those of you watching, if you don't know, I used to be a full-time weightlifter. That was my job. I used to do 2-a-days, and weightlifting is the snatch and the clean and jerk. I competitive nationally, got to lift for USA one time. That was my claim to fame at one point. But I put that all aside because performance is not healthy in a lot of ways. It's almost kind of counterintuitive. So I put my performance goals aside. I'm not too wrapped up with how fast I can do things or how much weight I can lift. I'm more of like, yeah, do I still want to get strong? Do I still enjoy lifting weights? Yes, but I'm not going to be pushing my body to the point where I get super stressed. It's one of the reasons why I'm here in the first place, because I didn't do it well when I was doing it. I didn't properly recover. I didn't eat enough. I was constantly trying to make weight because weightlifting is a weight class sport, and that put a number on my body. So right now it's just loving on my body after beating it up for a very long time. So
for sure, right? So now food-wise, some of the top acid-forming foods are, again, and most of these is seafood, surprising enough to some people, right? But again, I just said it, we want to make sure that we're not deficient in fat with respect or in respect to carbohydrates.
yeah.
We already talked about the egg yolk, but things like herring, oysters, crab, lobster, if you want to go big spender, go get some lobster, right? Sardines, salmon, meat in general, oatmeal, those kinds of things.
Mackerel, which I still need to try. I haven't tried that yet.
Right. From there, things we can do, supplementation, mineral support, right? We can do cider vinegar shots. We can take stomach acid supplementation. We just need to make sure it's primed properly, but I'll have something in terms of supplementation for you as well.
Okay.
In terms of exercise, you go on walks, right?
Yeah.
I
I
want you to
mean,
change the way you walk.
ooh, okay.
So brisk pace,
Okay.
long strides,
Okay.
shallow breath.
Okay.
This is going to create a more acidic environment in your body,
Okay.
right? So we can do that. I know it's strange. And then from there, some lymph work, right? Rebounding. Rebounding looks weird. Some people feel really stupid when they do it. But we can do things like skin brushing,
Mm-hmm.
right? YouTube is probably like, if you want to do like a DIY skin brushing approach, YouTube is probably going to be your best
What's
bet.
the tool that you can use on your neck
Ooh,
too?
there's so many, but it's probably like you talk about the silver scraper thing, right?
Yeah, so it's a I because Coach Ellen and I had a call yesterday and I was talking about how I was seeing a lot of inflammation within my face and she's like, "Oh dude, like just go use." And I just ordered it. I can see it in my like I'm such a visual person, but the names always miss me. Let me see. I'm actually on Amazon right now looking at my orders.
I don't think that's considered Graston anymore.
No, it's not. So this is specifically
Yeah.
it's a gua sha. There you go. So this is what I ordered. I ordered it with like, if you can see the video, guys,
Mhm.
it's like a tool that you use and you put it right here on your neck. And then I also
Yeah.
got it with the
Because you
oils,
know
so it goes everywhere.
that's where your lymph, like some of your lymph nodes are.
Yep.
So we're doing some lymph work,
Yep.
right? So from there, it says allergies. This is, have you been in a more allergic environment, at least to your knowledge?
Um, so uh I know that I do have sensitivities and intolerances to like gluten and dairy. I have been doing it more often. And I was actually put in the hospital a
Hmm.
couple months ago, like late summer, where I had an infection. And then they gave me an antibiotic that I had a severe allergic reaction to and I had to get an EpiPen. So that's the two things that I was that comes to mind.
Interesting, right? It's almost like that blood work doesn't lie,
It's like,
right?
oh,
Like it wasn't, and now again, like this isn't anything serious, but we can still see that your body had to like recover from some of those things,
yeah, 100%.
right? From there, vitamins and minerals, and this is mostly related to your body not being able to absorb this properly as we would like.
Hmm.
Um, right? Again, for completeness sake, keeping with the same thing. Individual nutrient deficiencies, this is where it gets interesting.
Okay.
Zinc, because we know zinc does help with immune system, zinc does help with hormonal production. Thiamine is vitamin B1. Vitamin B1 is directly responsible for the help in blood sugar breakdown. Now,
Mhm.
with chronic thiamine, there is usually an additional need for things like zinc. Funny how they show up together,
Yeah.
right? But also essential fatty acids, which is funny because we just talked about higher fats from
Hmm.
seafoods, right? Which
Yeah.
are our essential fatty acids,
Hmm.
right? Um, we talked about the zinc need and we talked about eggs and meat and other seafood, which are phenomenal sources of zinc, right? Which is why when you think back to way earlier when we just started this, that I said that like we can't look at just one, they all tie together,
Hmm.
right? So if we're deficient in one thing, we're most likely that's going to affect all of those things downstream, right? Which is why the nutritional approach, in order to get you better, is going to have an impact on all of these other things, right? So we make a very simple change. I'm not saying it's an easy change, right? Because change for some people is very, very hard when we're super regimented. Yet it's simple, right? Eat less other things, eat more seafood.
Yeah.
Right? Eat less carbohydrates, eat more monounsaturated fatty acids, right? Which are your, oh, I'm gonna step on toes. Seed oils, right? All right, let's pause this for a second. Because I just said seed oils and I just want to preface this.
Yeah.
If somebody demonizes foods, seed oils included, they usually speak from a point of either sickness or disorder,
Or just straight up sales and marketing, because it sells
right?
when you take like
It's
hard
right, but
stances.
I believe in the good nature of people,
Yeah.
right?
It's hard
Seed
to in the
oils,
fitness and nutrition industry.
I know, like seed oils are not bad.
Yeah.
What happens is when we heat them past their smoke point is when they turn into not so good things for our body because they can cause some stuff, right? But it's like your cold pressed olive oil as a salad dressing is not the enemy, right? Your canola oils are not the enemy, right? We want to try our best to stay away from them if they come in a fried form because they usually have been heated throughout that process past their smoke point, but they're not your enemy, right? So that's the only reason, right? Because seeds, especially things like pumpkin seeds, sunflower seeds, we can include them. They will help, right?
Chia
Because they're
seeds?
say what?
Chia seeds?
Yeah, more on the fiber.
More on the fiber side?
More on the fiber side. I don't know. I could be wrong, but I don't think I've ever seen chia seed oil.
No, I don't
Right.
think so either. But no, you're right.
Right. Ugh. Clinical dysfunctions. What do some of these things mean? Right. So now this is where all of these, well, I'm going to call them speculations, right? Because we never say this is true. They're either possible, likely, or highly likely. Right. We talked about testosterone deficiency. Oh, that's surprising. We talked about low stomach acid, hypochlorhydria. That shows up. Hypothyroidism. That shows up. Right? Muscle breakdown. That shows up. Right? So it's like all of these things that we just previously had talked about represent themselves as dysfunctions down the stream. Right? Which is the cool thing about blood work because we take all of these individual markers and we can tie them together to paint a picture. Right? Nutrition, health, and all of those kind of things, they're all skeleton concepts, black and white, sick or healthy. Right? Good food, bad food, clean, not clean, right? Good workout, bad workout. But the context of what do you need to do individually, which foods should you include? I mean, I just told Casey, how should you walk, right? How should you exercise? It's that individualized context that provides the color for us to paint the picture.
Yeah. That's why when you find a really good coach or specialist that you're working for, they're always going to be like, if you ask a question of like, this is right or wrong or good or bad or whatever, they're always going to say it depends on the context of the situation.
Absolutely.
So,
right. So what should we be doing? Because again, we can triage, we can group things, and because a lot of the things that we talked about are factoring in the same kind of things, right? When we are trying to be as zinc and vitamin D supported as possible, we are already going to put you into a more acidic environment. So we already don't have to worry about, well, that's why pH support's at the bottom. That's why liver support's at the bottom. right? Because if we focus on these 2 or 3 at the top, maybe 4, we're going to knock off the bottom 2, right? So this looks like a lot, but it's going to be very simple and a very brief number of intervention things that we want to do, right? We want to improve our digestive support so that the body can actually uptake these vitamins, right? We want to make sure that we're getting Casey back on her medication.
Yes, please. I am on it, by the way.
Beautiful. Beautiful. From there, we can now really look into what should we be eating. We just talked about a brief food list, right? How should we be exercising? What can we do supplementally, right? Now, after we have put those things together, which I'm sending to everybody who does blood work through us, right? Or at least the analysis part. What we can do next is look at some of the other things we should be taking, right? I'm going to send this to you as well, which is a severely condensed version of what we did before. Hey, look, it's actually you.
Hey, there's me.
Right? But again, just to explain, the objective of everything that I've sent you is to arm you with knowledge to allow you to go from surviving to thriving. Shameless plug.
Aha. Shameless plug.
Right? Now, again, we tested 65 markers. This is how they came around. Supplement recommendations. And these are all clickable links. See? You can click into them.
Nice.
Right.
That makes it super freaking simple.
Oh, yeah.
Love it.
All right. Right? So that's a lot. I know. Especially if we're balling on a budget. If we are, or if you are, let me know. And we can talk a little bit about top to bottom, right? Which ones should we for sure focus on first? Which ones can we see if we're taking care of them nutritionally, things like that.
Yeah.
Right? But for completeness sake, right? HCL, we talked about it like, hey, we can do this with food, but we can also help it out a little bit and have a little bit of a supplement for stomach acid. Same thing with digestive enzymes, helps the body digest a little bit.
Yeah.
Right? From there, what should we do? For sure, we should be strength training to make sure that we're reversing some of that muscular breakdown. We want to build a little bit more, right? But how can we actually do that? Well, we know that your body's in a very stressed environment, or at least at that time, right? So instead of following one of our standardized programs, I would actually recommend something like our Thriving on Fit program, which allows for personalized dosage of volume and intensity to make sure that you're not only getting the best physical results, but we can also gear this towards supporting your body moving towards a physiological optimum.
Yeah. Which, by the way, guys, I am working with Coach Ellen. And so I'm doing like what's called Thriving on Plus, where it's both individualized nutrition and fitness, because I knew that this was going to happen. And so she's going to be taking this information and also consulting with Tobi on how to build an individualized program for me and hold me accountable to a lot of the nutrition things that I need to be held accountable to. And they'll take a lot of pressure off from my plate, because obviously, like, I do this for clients, but it's just good to have somebody delegate, right? I'm working on that. I'm working on delegating and not trying to do everything myself, which is part of my stress management protocol that I'm working on. So,
right. From there, I did not put all of the foods and everything we should be doing nutritionally on here because we would have needed like 5 pages for this. And because I know that Casey is working with one of our nutrition coaches, so we will consult with her to make sure that she has all the information she needs in order to help Casey as best as possible. But that's why I put things on here like following your nutritional protocol for at least 3 months. Some of these things are not, and this is when it takes time for you to work up to making these changes. Once you are able to implement these changes, then the 3-month timer starts.
Yeah.
It takes your body time to absorb, to heal, to get used to these, right? For some of you who are looking to make that change, it might be very easy if this is already very in line with what you're doing, or if you have already severe experience with making changes. But if this is new, and a lot of these things are very overwhelming, this might take some time, and it's okay,
Yep.
right? This is the foundation to your health, which is going to lay the foundation for the physical change. The physical will follow the physiological, and it's okay if it takes time. Don't rush it, right? But strength train, if you already do strength train, we may just have to change the intensity or do that. If you don't strength train, let's start with 1 to 2 times. If you go 5+ days a week, let's tone that back a little bit.
Can we go over like what I currently do with fitness and how you would suggest
100%.
Okay, cool. So I currently, like, again, like I was talking about before, I was dealing with like a lot of low motivation, and it's usually stemmed from really bad stress. Like typically when I get stressed, I turn into a hermit and I don't want to do things. And usually fitness and nutrition is pretty easy for me to do just because I know how good I feel when I do it. So I'm really motivated to do it a lot. So that's a big red flag that I know I was really, really stressed out. And so I just signed up for like there's this gym across the street, phenomenal little private, like cute aesthetic gym. And I love the people there. They have group classes, and it was what needed me to just get motivated to just move. So I've been doing group fitness classes. It is a little bit more higher intensity. I think it's a good moderation. It's one of the things I'm a fan of is that it does incorporate a little bit of fitness a lot better than what most fitness classes or boot classes I've personally experienced has. It's a really good, like, I think it's a really good group class if I was going to do it. But beyond that, I've been doing a little bit of yoga here and there and walking, just making sure I get 8 to 10K steps a day, like zone 2 cardio, maybe once or twice a week. That's what I've been at right now, coming back from just being extremely stressed out. So what would you have me do?
Right. I would probably change the way you perform some of your hypertrophy or accessory work exercises, for sure. So what we can do, volume, okay. When we're looking at progressive overload, because this is like the big word that we mentioned up here, right? This just means increasing the volume of your training over time. And we know that volume is expressed as weight times sets times reps. Oh, I did the thumbs up thing again.
Yeah.
Right? So what we can do is we don't necessarily have to increase the weight to make this a progressively overloading program. I would probably scale the weight back and really work on tempo work, right?
Yeah.
3 to 4 second eccentrics, really emphasizing the lengthened portion of the muscle, right? So instead of doing a deadlift from the floor, which puts your muscle in a shortened position, the hamstrings, I would substitute that for something like a RDL, like a Romanian deadlift, which emphasizes the lengthening of the muscle,
Yeah.
right? We get usually more sore. We stay safer because we need significantly less weight. But in terms of overall muscular development, it's going to help. Is it going to make us strong as bull? Maybe not, but it's going to help get you to where you want to be.
Yeah.
Right?
And
Same
again, I'm
thing.
not too worried about how the number on the barbell anymore.
Right.
I spent majority of my life trying to get a lot stronger. I was talking to Ellen about this on our first call, and she's like, what are your goals? And I was like, honestly, like yes, I do want to get stronger, but in different skill sets. Like one of the things that I want to get more into is calisthenics, like getting back to pull-ups, getting back to like handstand holds, more core stability, body weight stuff, mobility, flexibility. I used to be really into that and really, really enjoyed it. I loved moving and I felt great ever since I started working at a desk and I stopped moving so much. And I still continue to lift heavy, but I'm a lot tighter and things hurt. And it's because I've lost that component of mobility, flexibility, things like that. So something that we've talked about is incorporating more calisthenic works like handstands, pull-ups, and more like functional mobility strength training to really just open things up, make my ligaments and joints a lot healthier, get me to move better, feel more fluid, I guess. And I think another thing that we agreed upon is just taking a step back from the fitness classes, because the fitness classes didn't necessarily work on the things I wanted to work on. And it was potentially because it does get my heart rate up at this moment for me. It's probably not the best for my goal right now because I'm already too stressed. So we're also talking about incorporating more Pilates and or yoga too, for a period of time just to help me move the needle forward for my goals. So I think we talked about strength training, like calisthenic strength training 3 times a week, adding like low intensity yoga, maybe a Pilates, and then just making sure I'm stepping, getting some zone 2 cardio. And that's what she said that we were going to start working on developing. And I'm sure she'll take some of that information to help build upon that too. So that's going to be a lot of fun.
Right. I wouldn't necessarily like agree with calisthenics, but again,
Okay.
that's
No,
a
no, no,
conversation
no. Go.
down the
I
road.
want to hear your opinion. This is the reason why I'm doing this. I want to hear
The
it.
reason why is because it's going to be calisthenics. If we don't add weight, can only be progressively overloading for so long. Right now, the only thing that you can increase is your reps. Um, so again, I would do exercises where I would pair those two.
Okay,
Right.
cool. Yeah, we
So
can definitely do that.
instead of doing like a very heavy set of bench press, I would do a lighter weight on the bar
Mm-hmm.
and then go down nice and slow, 4 to 5 second negative, hover for just a second over your chest, push athletically,
Mm-hmm.
um, and then move right into a set of push-ups to failure.
Okay,
Those
cool.
kind of things, right? Where we're able to work the muscle pretty intensely without overly taxing our nervous system if we're applying those kind of training principles,
Yeah, sounds good to me.
right? Um, right. From there, minimizing stress, Casey. Minimizing stress. Following a holistic gut health approach. I know you've done this already.
Mm-hmm. I'll go
Right.
back to that because I remember I still have the protocol, and I'll hit up Hannah, that's her name. She helped me with that. And that was actually, it's funny that you say the acidity with my stomach, because I was like listing out all the symptoms and she's like, "Oh, probably have low stomach acid. Here's some things." So I'll go back to that too.
Yep. Again, skin and dry brushing, you already ordered the things that you need for that.
Mm-hmm.
Incorporating some low intensity, steady state cardio, you already talked about zone 2.
Mm-hmm. Boom.
Sleep.
7 8 hours of sleep.
So the reason why this is all the way at the top is because I am going to say this is so important for you right now if it means that you either get to eat a meal that supports your individual needs better,
Mm-hmm.
or you will get more sleep, skip your exercise.
Yeah.
It's that important. It's not worth it to get yourself, like if you went to bed at 11, it's not worth it to get yourself out of bed at 4 in the morning just so that you get your exercise in. You're better off skipping that, sleeping longer.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not saying sleep in all the time, right, for you that are listening,
Mm-hmm.
but there needs to be a harmony between the things that we need.
Yeah. We need to triage things. What is more important at this moment?
Absolutely. Now, I would suggest at that point, if that is the issue that we're running into, going to bed earlier so that we can still get our exercise in the morning, if that is the only thing that our schedule allows, right? Because Netflix is still going to be there on another day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
And that's something that
sometimes,
Ellen and I are going to be working on, is a better sleep routine as well, is to help me
right,
get in bed earlier.
like
So
I was supposed to work out at 5:30 a.m. this morning, but I didn't get to bed until 11:30 because we had a project to finish.
yeah.
So I made a educated decision and I didn't go work out this morning because it would have resulted in me only getting like 4.5 hours of sleep, and I'm not okay with that.
Yeah, exactly. Sleep
Right.
is it's like one of the biggest things that you need to protect, which, can I share a win?
Sure.
Okay. So when I was in the middle of really struggling with my hormonal issues. We know this is like progesterone was super, super low. And it does negatively affect your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. And I would probably maybe get 5 to 6 hours on average, no matter how hard I tried. And now I actually enjoy sleeping. I can sleep 8 to 10 hours a night. Is it always consistent? No, it could get better because my sleep routine needs to get better. And also like work and things like that. But if I needed to, if I want to, I can sleep 8 to 10 hours easy. Like last night, I went to bed around like 10, a little bit later than when I ideally like to. And I woke up this morning at 6 and I felt like I was like, I'm not done. And I woke up at 8 and I got like 9 hours of sleep and I feel way better. And that's like, I'm a little bit behind today, but like just going through my own experience, like I've felt what it's like to not get enough sleep. It's 100% not worth it. Like it's not worth skipping the sleep. Like I will now prioritize my sleep and protect that a lot because I know what it feels like to feel like absolute shit from not sleeping. It's not fun. So I thought that was a huge win for me because
Absolutely.
legit, I would get anxiety to go to sleep because it was such a struggle that I would get so upset that I would start crying myself, like crying in bed because I couldn't sleep. So now it's like, ooh, I get to go to sleep now. And
I
now I
know
actually understand.
sleeping is amazing. I think sleep
Yeah.
is strange too, though, because like you close your eyes. Like for me, time flies when I'm sleeping. So it's like you close your
Mhm.
eyes and you open them, and it's like bam, 9 hours by, and I was like, what happened?
Yeah, exactly.
And I love it though.
Yeah.
Sleep is great.
100%.
It's
100%.
great.
Well,
But this is blood work analysis.
yeah. And full disclosure, guys, if you're somebody that's getting in the one-off with the blood panel analysis, you'll get way more detail. But when you do come on as a one-on-one client, we allow, like, again, like part of the job of the coach is to take a lot of pressure off of your shoulders, not overwhelm you. If you're getting a blood panel analysis one off, that's more for people that don't get easily overwhelmed. They're very self-sufficient. They understand these things, that they're at that experience level. So that way they can get the information and execute on their own. But if you're more of a beginner, like I highly suggest starting with a coach because these things do get overwhelming. Like I remember when I first started, like I was super overwhelmed and terrified. And because of that, because I just didn't have the experience level yet, I would not do anything about it. And it just prolonged my pain. And it wasn't until I actually started getting help with it that everything just started flowing. I remember when I first started really working on it, got a functional practitioner, started applying a lot of things that we work on with our own clients. Within 3 months, I lost 15 pounds without even trying to do anything, like without
Yes.
even working hard. So it's,
This is one of these things that like I say all the time. It's your body should not be struggling to lose weight, to
mm-mm,
gain muscle. Like some of these things, there are very simple physiological processes, right? Train, eat more, you gain muscle. Like train, eat
exactly,
less, you lose fat. Starve
exactly.
yourself, you lose weight, but probably water, muscle, and fat. And if you're doing all of these things, right? I'm working out, I'm eating super healthy, I am eating very little. I'm taking all the supplements and nothing is changing.
Mm-hmm.
There's probably something holding you back, right? Because it's very ambitious that you have all of these goals, but you rarely ever rise to the level of your goal, and you will almost certainly fall to the level of your system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. We actually have a couple, we have a question here right now.
Oh,
Brittany
I love it.
asks,
Let's go. Who asked?
Brittany, Brittany,
Mm.
Brittany asks, is it not normal to bloat by the end of the day? And so it's normal to maybe have like be a little bit heavier by the end of the day, because think of it this way, you drinking a lot of water, you're putting food
Mm.
into your body, you probably worked out,
Noted.
so yeah. You're maybe a little bit of inflammation through working out or
So
stress
if
or
you're
anything like that.
drinking, yeah, if you're drinking this is about 2.5 pounds, maybe 2.25.
Yeah. So how many ounces is that?
Uh, 34. So
34.
32
So
ounce water bottle.
So I drank 3 of these. So that's 7 pounds right there.
Yeah, but you're peeing too, right?
Yeah, I'm paying too, but like you're getting an idea. And then I'm also putting food in my stomach too. That's going to require a lot of weight. And I'm eating lots of fruits and vegetables. I'm getting more volume with my food and a lot more fiber. That causes you to hold on to a little bit more weight because it takes I think about 5 hours for the
Yeah, it
digestive
depends.
process.
It depends. It
Depends on the
depends on the
person. Yeah,
person. The more fat you eat, the slower, like fat slows down your
the
gastric
process.
emptying.
Yeah.
But of
But with
course,
that,
for
go ahead.
women, it
Sorry.
also depends on your cycle
Yeah, it does.
with that. But if it's a frequent thing, I would say no. It
Yeah.
might be
If it,
common for you, but I wouldn't say like if this is something that happens like every day, every other day, every month.
yeah. And you feel uncomfortable, like the whole feeling uncomfortable and being very bloated, like I almost look pregnant. It does not feel good when it happens. That's not that's not normal. It's common for me and it's common for a lot of people, but most people are not the healthiest. Our society is not the healthiest nowadays, especially with how stressful our society is. So it makes sense. So that is not not normal for a lot of people. It just depends, but as well as it just depends on the situation, right? But for me, it's not good. Um, so with that being said, that is the recording for today. By the way, guys, we're going to take this recording and put it on the website too for anybody that wants to learn a little bit more about the blood panel analysis to see if this is something that you want to do. If this is something that you want to do, you think that this is a tool to help you succeed, whether you're one-on-one client, you can 100% get that through us. We can set that up because then this allows us to really understand what's going on with your body and either help you overcome the struggles that you're going through or really personalize things to really optimize things to fast track them, right? If you're somebody that just wants the one off as well, that we're more than happy to do that. We'll put the links in the description for you to check that out and learn a little bit more. And if you want to ask questions, ask Toby and myself a little bit more questions, just make sure this is a tool that you want to do. 100% reach out. A little bit of details about a blood panel analysis is that you can either get the blood work through your doctor if you can. 100% we encourage that if it's covered by insurance. All we need is to make sure that we have the blood markers available. You saw that I had about 65 markers. Majority of the people that go to their doctor and get a general panel, it's about 20 to 40 markers. So we do need more
Yeah,
to
on
see
average, I like
on
that you gave
average.
that range. On average, it's about like 30, 32, somewhere around there.
Yeah. It doesn't provide enough information for us to actually see into what's going on. So then you'd have to get another blood panel done and it just costs you more money and time. We don't want you to do that. But if you can get that from your doctor, and it's covered by insurance, go through that. We also affiliate with an online company that provides comprehensive panels online that a lot of times can be cheaper than going through your doctors. For some people, I've heard like some people being asked like $1,000 or $2,000 for their blood panel. And I'm just like,
Welcome to insurance.
yeah, they'll upcharge you on that. So just advocate for yourself. If you do to go to your doctor and you see that bill through us, it's, I think the link that we provide, it's like 275 on average,
On average,
270 on average. Just
yeah,
depends.
they have like discounts running all the time.
Yeah, and they have discounts running all the time. So if our clients can get a better deal through us or they're unable to get blood work through their doctor that we need, then we just send them that way. And then you get that done. If you go through the link that we send you and you just go to a lab, it's literally in and out in 15 minutes. Like I honestly refuse to get blood work done in the doctor's office because it just takes too long. It's a nightmare. I just go through that. With my person, like I go through a functional practitioner. She doesn't care if I do that on my own either. She's like, just get me the blood work. It doesn't really matter to me.
And if you had blood work before, now that we're just because we're talking about pricing, if you had it
Yeah.
before through us and it was a little bit more, um, like we didn't mean to. It's like we are evolving and finding better ways to provide you
Yeah.
with,
We just found a better one. We found a cheaper one, which we're always
with
looking for that. So the one that we used before was really great, but we found a cheaper one that does just as well. So we switched over to that now. So that's a tool as well. And then from there, once you get the blood work in, if you are a Coaching Plus client, it comes with it. You don't have to pay for Toby's time. If you're like a thriving on nutrition and or fit client, then you just have to pay for his time. That's it. Just for that call, the research and things like that. And that's about it. I think it's on average, depending on how intensive it is, it's on average about $150. So, but it's super seamless. You just get the blood work in, we send it in. He does his research. He jumps on a call with you and gives you all the different things that you need. If you're working with a client or with a coach, he'll transition, like they'll do a consultation so that way they can alter anything that they need to help you succeed. But if you are not a client and you just want to one off, it'll give you all the different things, much more detailed than what you saw here. But I have Coach Ellen in my corner, so we're going to be able to alter things within the Thriving On app and help me stay accountable to that. But that's about it. But thank you for watching. If you guys have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us, DM us, Instagram, anything, email us, anything like that. But beyond that, thanks for showing up. Thanks for watching and listening. Hopefully we'll do another one and my markers will be way better.
Yes.
It's a competition. I want to see all greens. But beyond that, thanks for showing up. Talk to you next time.
Bye.